Welcome in, LSU fans, to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast. My name is Bryce Coon alongside Shay Dixon. And Shay,
Hello.
halfway through the season, my man, and a lot of people worried about this 2026 recruiting class. A lot of chatter on 2027. But, man, excited to hop in here with you. Been a minute for us to talk a little bit about the recruiting game that LSU trying to fill out that 2026 class and obviously get a head start on 27.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Bryce, not a ton happens in season when you do a lot of the heavy lifting in the off season with kids who are seniors in high school. We've seen obviously some new offers go out and stuff like that to the underclassmen, but by and large, this class is put together. The guys that sign in December, we'll see if they don't. I do think they'll add a few more before the dust settles on it, but the main goal has been getting those committed guys back to campus as often as possible. And the more they're back, the more that they sort of get familiar with LSU, the more that, Bryce, they're not on someone else's campus, which helps, obviously. And I think they feel pretty good about where they're at right now. So I know that, and we can talk about this, but what do they have? 16 total commits? Yeah, 16 total commits, which puts them with a top 10 class, 10th right now in the country. But one thing I always kind of look at, and we'll talk more about this, but that blue chip percentage, 81% would be number 2 behind Oregon. So pound for pound, this class is, obviously pretty impressive. Only a handful of guys aren't Rivals 300 players. So, look, I guess we can open it up there. We're in that new era of teams finding out each year what the balance between players they retain, the transfer portal, and then high school signees are in terms of numbers. And then at the same time, obviously, removing ourselves from that mindset of, oh, well, it's hard capped at 25. So you got to get to 25 high school signees. And I remember, Bryce, those days, like everyone would sit around and wonder how Ole Miss got to 30 something signees, and they were blue shirting and gray shirting and back counting. And none of that exists anymore. And we need to just get acclimated to this new era of don't freak out if there's a few months of signing day and you have 16 commits. Like, it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be different for everybody. And, like I hinted at in the intro, it's one of those things, too, where people look at it, maybe they're worried about, lack of a quarterback in the class. There's a lot of different concerns about maybe that 2026 class. But you mentioned that blue chip ratio is very high. So like what you said and how you said it there, pound for pound, this is a class that, in terms of elite talent, like, they may not have the numbers, but they've got some guys that are very high value, per that Rivals ranking. I wanted to talk about one guy in particular, and I didn't tell you about this beforehand, so we'll put you on the spot, but he made the trip to Baton Rouge this weekend. LSU fans saw some information maybe that piqued their interest in terms of Deuce Geralds being pursued by Ole Miss. I got to talk to him on the field pregame. Deuce everyone knows his story, his family ties to Baton Rouge, and obviously his dad being recruited by Frank Wilson. I guess what can you glean, or what have you been able to glean off of, just talking with people about where LSU sits with this, and how real is that smoke from the Rebels?
Yeah, it really picked up too, and I guess right after Ole Miss beat LSU. So that was kind of the, hey, look, we're ramping efforts back up here. And for those that don't know, the short and skinny here, he's a top 10 D lineman. His dad played at Scotlandville here in Baton Rouge. And at the time, his dad was recruited by Frank Wilson, who was on staff at Ole Miss. So he goes to Ole Miss, signs there, plays college ball there. And now that his son, Deuce, is going through the high school recruitment over in Georgia, they've always said, hey, look, it didn't look like any team in Georgia, Tech or Georgia, weren't going to end up getting him. But it was LSU, Oregon kind of battling it out. And Ole Miss was sort of that other team that was in the mix, or one of the other teams in the mix. So I think that they tried to come back around, hey, recruit him again, see what we can do. I don't know what the vibe you have is. The vibe I get is that LSU is probably good there. I think that as long as everything checks out on the NIL side and, rev share and all that, which I think they handled the first time around, obviously you're going to revisit all of those discussions with everybody before signing day. But it's good for me to see. I would be pressing the panic button if he were just making other visits nonstop.
Yeah.
He's been at LSU multiple times this year and is going to be back again. And you've got good relationships there. So nothing really sneaks up on you, even though he's an out-of-state kid that you can't really keep an eye on, the high school every day to see who's kind of heavy in the mix or behind the scenes. So I feel good there. And it speaks to, he's one of like 3 D linemen. We're not even talking edges that are top 10 quote unquote D linemen. I know Lamar Brown is a 5-star here in Baton Rouge. He's incredible to be number 1 athlete in the country at, whatever he is, 6'5", 285, but he could play O-line or D-line, but he will play D-line. So like that, not counting those stand-up edge rush guys, like your straight up DT, DN types, Trent Henderson could fit in there, but shoot, Lamar Brown, if he were not number 1 athlete, he'd be number 1 D lineman in the country. Yeah. You've already got the number 2 D lineman in Richard Anderson out of Carr, and then you've got another top 10 D lineman in Deuce Geralds. And we're seeing right now, Bryce, like what was the count up to post Orgeron of every year going through a new D line coach? Now you found what you hope is stability between Kevin Peoples as the edge ends coach, and then Kyle Williams as the interior, just kind of DT D-line coach. And they've found a healthy rotation there. Like we have to be able to say that group, he knows how to develop guys, because we're seeing fall camp and in-season development, off-season development from Ahmad Bro, who played for Kyle Williams in high school at Ruston, and other guys who are, not Gooden and McKinley, these proven, whether it was at the high school level and a year ago or transfers in Gooden's case, but proven starter types, they're finding really good reps with the backups. So if I'm an LSU fan, I'm giddy over the reality that you're bringing in 3 interior guys on the D line that are all top 10 in the country. Like, hold on to Duce Geralds all you can, and I think they will, but feel very good about holding on to the other 2. They are Louisiana guys who are still here right now. Then you toss in Geralds with the Louisiana connection. They've never had a problem with the edge rushers, Trent Henderson, those guys, like that's every year. But to be able to do this with interior guys, I think speaks to, hey, look, LSU's in a real, if they're playing good D-line play right now, like they're stacking up on it recruiting.
Yeah, and we mentioned on Sunday, reps-wise, who was the 5th D tackle? It's Buddy Mathis, right? I mean, a guy that they really trust. So it's not just, we're going to stack you and you're going to be buried. I mean, hey, if one of our guys, and they've got, we talked about this, there is a gap in the D tackle room in terms of you've got your real true veterans in Guillory and Gooden, you've got your second-year players in McKinley and Bro, and then it was just freshmen, really. I mean, in terms of real contributors, you had Sean Washington, you had some other names. But, yeah, Buddy Mathis, that's probably one of the best recruiting pitches of a guy, come on campus, work your tail off in fall camp in the summer and, go get after it. And that would be my pitch. And I guess the second part of it is, just even talking with some of, my folks back over in the state of Georgia, Duce Geralds is a guy that, like you mentioned, the in-state schools, Georgia kind of, I don't want to say they played around, but they really didn't aggressively ever turn attention in terms of Geralds. They have a stacked D-line class.
Yeah, I don't think that speaks to his talent. I think that's sort of every year, right? When you're that good at recruiting and it's in the state of Georgia and there's 800 kids that, you kind of take a look at.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for LSU. I'd be glad that Georgia's not on.
Exactly.
It's just like the Weeks brothers. Weeks wasn't on by Georgia. Like they were stacked at outside linebacker and linebacker at the time.
So to that, I do know, and talking with some people, like Georgia Tech tried to kind of get in late. Obviously not a power premier program, so they were kind of working there from behind. But in terms of, Ole Miss, like, I talked with Deuce on the sideline pregame, and he was like, it's cool, but there's a reason I'm here tonight. And that was kind of his thing of what he said. And I think, to your point, if he was spending multiple visits elsewhere, that was when I would raise a level of concern. I asked him, I said, hey, is there a plan to get back? He goes, we're thinking about the Texas A&M game. Well, shoot, man. I mean, Shay, we've talked about this maybe on the team side of things, but like LSU takes care of business this weekend. That might be your best opportunity to see Tiger Stadium at full throttle. And look, I don't know about you. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe you're a little bit biased, but you get a kid that he's committed, but, teams are trying to flirt with him. You get him in there on a Saturday night in Death Valley in that atmosphere, and he's already committed. That feels like that's like the Austin Thomas, Kyle Williams, Kevin Peoples. That's the closer role. Like, hey, here's the final straw we need you to make sure you stay on board.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's going to – A&M will be a massive, maybe win or lose, really, recruiting weekend, because in the month of November, they're on the road at Bama and Oklahoma. So you play a non-con game at home, Western Kentucky.
And then Arkansas.
You get Arkansas at home, who's sort of the bottom, a bottom feeder of the SEC, given they fired a coach during the season who was a very well-known coach that nobody is talking about right now, and it's an SEC West job, it it's baffling that I guess James Franklin stole everyone's thunder there, but that people are talking about the future of Billy Napier and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, well, the Arkansas job's open, and no one even
Yeah.
mentions it. So, yeah, I do think this Bryce will probably be that final big recruiting weekend, and then we'll see what they can do for Arkansas and Western Kentucky. So, get old Deuce back, and anybody else.
I wanted to ask you this, and this is, I guess, really speculation at this point, but this time of the year, you mentioned the coaching cycle already ramped up, right? And there's a lot of rumors. I know some of our national reporters are in on this, Nakos, and all of these guys are talking about, hey, this could be a big week in terms of coaching changes in the SEC with Napier at Florida and Hugh Freeze down at Auburn. It's it's speculative for sure. Is there anybody that you think LSU's and what are those conversations like in terms of flipping and wanting to talk to? I think of one particular Auburn commit and Jace Matthews that I think the Tigers wouldn't mind revisiting. But I guess just in terms of the season, how do you approach that when as a staff and not maybe the position coaches, they're getting ready for the games, but that support staff is they're kind of looking at other rosters and saying other classes and saying, okay, if that domino falls, we need to be ready to pounce and rekindle those conversations.
Yeah, it's always been sort of the thing when you get to potential firings and it sort of seems inevitable that a coach would be let go, that you dive into their recruiting class. And as you say, if there's a common thread, like a Jace Matthews, where you were not only recruiting him, but you were in the final group, like you really thought you had a shot there, that's a no-brainer. I mean, he's the number 1 or 2 receiver in the country. I almost feel like, and I was looking over Auburn and Florida's classes and Arkansas's, and I sort of stepped back and realized, like, Bryce, if we shifted, the reality now is like, yeah, okay, you might have 15 commits and maybe we were in on a few guys. How many guys on the roster were you in on? And if a coach leaves, how many guys are hitting the portal? And look, there's going to be the reality of a new coach coming in, and maybe they stay for that reason, or the new coach is bringing guys with them and guys leave. Like, that's where a team, and from asking around, not just LSU, like, this is the approach now. Like, they go in there and have to watch all these guys again, and they put an ear to the ground to get a feel for, hey, who might really be heading out when they're talking with agents and other things. I do think that it's the scope of a coach firing now becomes so much bigger in the SEC with the portal, because now you can say, all right, and what about your entire, 85-man roster? I bet we have more common threads there than we do in the current recruiting class. And that's what you kind of keep an eye on, I think, with even in Arkansas, but certainly with Florida and Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, just perusing that Auburn recruiting class, that Auburn roster, they got some talent. It's like they've got some guys, especially in the skill position room, that I know LSU was talking to. Obviously, the high school ranks. I've always said this too, Shay. We've entered an era where like finishing second isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, well, that used to be the butt of every joke, was the coach was the king of finishing second recruitment. Like, congrats, here's a cookie or pat on the back. Now it's like, hey, you finish second and a kid hits a portal, you're in the pole position coming. Now you're in the presumed number 1 spot, because he's leaving the number 1 choice. So, I think it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning too, right? Like, Brian Kelly talked about it, where he was like, 20 to that 25 range, 30 high school kids, and we'd like to be in single digit portal guys, 5 to 10 a class. I think that reality's out the window. I think you're double digit portal guys every single cycle, no matter what. And then you're in that 20 to 25 range, maybe, of high school signees. And that's not even taken into account if you're bringing back half the roster or a third of the roster, whatever it might be, the numbers shift a little bit. But yes, I do think that this portal season will be a bit more intriguing maybe than a year ago, because a year ago they put together a really big portal class and we weren't talking about any of these coach firings, and how that played into things. This time around, it's look around the SEC. I mean, the Auburn one's sneaking up on us. Like, I was brushing that one off before, like, y'all, no, they're not going to do that. Nope. Well, guess what? Florida, the only person who changes head coaches more often with their money they've got from boosters is Auburn. So I guess I won't count it out. That Yellowwood would step up.
And to your point about guys, entering the portal, whatever. I mean, you look at Braylon Moore and Mansour Delane, like, they got out a year early, right? Like, in terms of being able to do with Brent Pry getting fired. What was that, like week 3? They started 0-3. I mean, it's crazy to think about. But Yeah, LSU, I'm with you, man. In terms of how they want to build this roster, you know that they're going to probably have to go into the portal double-digit guys in terms of how you manage that. And then, Shay, the last part of that equation is, okay, well, then you talk about portal, you talk about high school additions. What about the guys that are going to be coming back? And I imagine some of those conversations, maybe not right now, but when you get into that bye week right before Bama, like some of those initial conversations between agents and staff members are going to start to occur with 1 month left in the season, kind of thinking, okay, guys that are definitely gone, you got a pretty good read. I mean, Mel Kiper just released his ESPN draft rankings. We had that on the site yesterday. But, there's some interesting names on this roster that I think, I don't want to say they're not NFL players. They're NFL players, but it's like you can get paid in college and be a leader for that fourth and final or fifth and final year now. And maybe it pays off from a development standpoint. Maybe it's just a better financial decision for you in that immediate future. So you think those conversations are going to start taking place kind of over the next month?
Yeah, I do. I think you circling before the bye week and being a month out from the end of the season is probably spot on in terms of when it begins to heat up. I think right now what we're seeing heat up around the country is the midway point of the season is when guys start to say, am I going to lose this red shirt or not? Am I going to play in more games or not? We saw it at Texas, Auburn, at the running back spot, right? Where guys are like, hey, I'm not playing anymore this year. Well, the reality would be if I can look up and you were playing some and now you don't play anymore, that you're probably preserving your red shirt, and you're probably preserving your red shirt because you're going to transfer. So that stuff is going on right now, right? So I guess start the timer or the clock. We're there. And we're only a couple of weeks out from that bye week that you circled. So the whole red shirt transfer talk, I think, is what just heated up in the past week or two of guys knowing, all right, I'm at that threshold now where if I play more than 4 games, then I lose an entire year. And do I want to go for that or not? So, yes, I think we're there. Golly, a lot of moving pieces.
It's a lot of moving pieces. It never slows down. In terms of talking, still going back to that high school recruiting, decision day tomorrow for a Louisiana native and a Louisiana standout, Javon Vital. Shay, obviously, you put in an RPM pick. We've had some of our national guys put in RPM picks here over the past month or so. I had the chance to talk with a young man last night. I kind of echo the sentiments that you sit here with. This feels like, to me, I'll tee up here, a situation where he was waiting on this LSU offer. LSU's in pretty good standing heading in tomorrow. I guess you echo that sentiment in a guy who is, flashed and a nice little piece that Frank Wilson's built a quick relationship with.
Yeah, they and he's coming out of Lake Charles, out of Hamilton Christian Academy, which he would be the first player ever out of Hamilton Christian to commit to LSU if it goes that way, which we both think it will, and obviously ultimately sign with LSU. I don't know Hamilton Christian's background. Like, I don't know how long they've been around, but Bryce, I'll take it. Like, if they've been around more than 1 year, because I know I've watched his highlights from a year ago. So even if they've only been open 2 years, if I'm the first player that's ever gone to LSU out of an in-state school, I'm wearing that badge of honor, right?
Yeah.
No one ever asked down the line, like, oh, you were the first player ever from that high school. Well, how long were y'all open before you got that? Like no one's ever trying to call you on that. So if I'm him, I'd be very happy if it goes LSU's way. And look, he's a South Louisiana kid who, as you noted, when he got the offer, that sort of changed everything for him. And he was at camp this summer at Friday Night Lights for LSU. And he's like at the 1A level in high school right now. He's playing quarterback, he's playing DB, he's playing return man, and that comes with the territory when you're in high school ball, even up to 5A. Like, right, if you're the best player on the team, you're usually playing a couple of positions. But they're eyeing him at that receiver spot. That's where we have him ranked, at least in college. I mean, think Aaron Anderson type size. Those guys sort of can go running back, receiver. Like, you could see it going a variety of ways, even more so, Bryce, when he's a junior in high school, right? He's got 2 years left to develop. Then he's on campus. Hell, we're seeing Juwan Johnson, who was a high school quarterback that you knew was just an athlete, be sort of passed around to a few different positions on both sides of the ball before he's settling into like very important running back touches in year 2 this year. So I think he's one of those guys who I think offense will probably be at lean there, but receiver, maybe running back, you sort of see how these next couple of years go.
Yeah, I talked to them last night, and the words were, I'll play wherever they want me.
Go ahead.
But they have shown a little bit, and to add to that, little Xavier Thomas highlights, which would make sense in terms of that versatile piece in the offense.
Yep, very similar players, right?
Yeah.
Taylor and Anderson, like return specialists who are in that 5'9", 5'10" range and can play multiple positions. Xavier does that already. Plays some running back too.
He's lining up everywhere. Before we gonna get to what Shay obviously opened up on the message board, to maybe I guess a recruiting mailbag of sorts.
Yeah, we'll just take some questions and we'll get the rest answered in a physical mailbag. But
in a physical way. Before we do that, Shay, we got our friends over at Brunt Workware, and I know that you look at this.
You see the
He's
hat,
got the hat on.
Yeah,
he's got the hat on.
Okay.
But you know, it's great stuff, and I want to talk to you a little bit about it. Founder Eric Gerard grew up blue collar and started Brunt Workware after his friends in the trades kept telling him that the big brands, they just weren't comfortable. They weren't listening to what the consumer wanted, and they hadn't changed in over 100 years. So they had pretty much sold out to become these fashion brands. And Eric's buddies encouraged him to start his own brand, and built for tradesmen, built for craftsmen, and real hardworking American people. So that's why all Brunt products are named after the guys that he grew up with. They're no doubt the most comfortable boots, I'm sure, Shay, that you've ever worn, and you got the hat to show it right there. And we appreciate them being a part of what we're doing here on On3 and the Bengal Tiger podcast all year long. The best thing about them is they feel comfortable right out of the box. You don't have to break them in. They're not that rigid, strict, boot that you got to put on, you got to wear around, you got to get the blisters. No, the best thing about Brunt Workwear is it comes right out of the box, ready to go out there and do whatever you need to do, whether it's working around the house, whether it's working on the job site, whether it's just doing daily tasks in and around the house. And you can still look good in them there as too. So whether it's waterproof, safety toe, soft toe, pull on, or lace up, they've got options that can handle whatever job site you're walking into. Right now, for a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use code Bengal Tiger at checkout. That's code Bengal Tiger at checkout. You just head to bruntworkware.com and you use that code Bengal Tiger, and you are good to go. Brunt stands behind what they make. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know a lot of other brands, Shay. I'm a big online shopper. My wife is too. They just let you send it back for free, no charge. They let you exchange things if you don't like it. Brunt does that, and then you can tell that's a company that really believes right there in their product. So Shay hasn't sent his back either.
Are we ready for the exactly? I didn't know that was an option, but it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Okay, let's get a look here. And all right, so they sent me some, and they not just a hat here. I got some boots.
Yeah,
they fit actually very true to size. Waterproof.
Nice.
You can see. I've already been wearing them around.
Okay.
I live a very sedentary lifestyle, right? Like I'm not out there. This is if you're doing physical labor, you already know what Brunt is, right? Me, I didn't. I asked around. All my buddies knew what it was already. Like, nice. That's a very nice pair. That's a good pair of work boots to get.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what they were going to send. I just gave them my size. It fit perfectly to size. And I wear these around all day. I'm in that latter part of what you talked about, like doing stuff around the house in them.
Yeah.
Yep. Check it off the list. If you're wondering how it performs, I can tell you very well. And I've owned a number of over the years. I don't even know if it would be competitor brands. I don't know if we're name dropping, but the Tims, the Docs, anything that might, be stylish out there that people wear, I'd put these up against them. I mean,
that's why we like them.
I'm putting them back on right now. I'd made an executive decision to take them off and not put my foot up here. In addition, look, and you get the nice box.
I mean,
the nice box.
There we go. You can keep them in, showcase them for your friends, family. We love to see it. Shout out,
If
Brian.
you squint your eye, if you squint your eyes, it almost looks like Bruni, which then he should be rocking these hard.
He should, and he should also just have pre-recorded the ad read. Bruni for Brunt.
Promo code Bengal Tiger.
There you go.
Don't forget it. Don't forget it. But yes, they are very, very comfortable. Like I said, they fit true to size. They have a sizing chart online and all that. And if you go on there, there's like a lot of options to choose from.
Options.
So if you get in there and you pick something, and as Bryce said, send it back, you get it free, you exchange it, whatever it is. I'd check them out.
Yeah.
We get a lot of ad stuff that they'll send stuff and it's like, oh, whatever.
Okay.
I love these shoes, and I don't do any real work. So I can only imagine if you're on your, if you're on your feet like all day and you wear boots, these are a game changer. These are like probably when they invented those extra soles that, Dr. Scholl's or whatever that go in your shoes, and
Slide
everyone's
right
like,
in.
oh my God, the gel or whatever. Like, that's how I
Yeah.
feel in these.
Yeah.
They're legit. I'll give it to them. Good job, Brunt. Promo code Bengal Tiger.
There you go. Blend of comfort and performance. That's what I'd like to see. All right, Shay. Let's go to the message board where Shay opened it up for people to ask some questions. So I guess I'm looking at this. You're looking at this too. You're going to get to some of these physically answered. People's feelings will get hurt, by the way, that we don't answer on the pod. But
they'll be fine. Everyone's going to be fine out there. How do you want?
Right.
You're hosting.
You choose one. I choose one. What do you want? How you want to do it? I got one for you.
Let's go. Okay.
Ian Nacho, is he still in play for this class?
I guess, and Jay Flagg asked that one, and it sort of goes in line with Debut 1996 asking about any potential flips, good or bad, coming down the line. I don't think bad. We talked about Deuce Geralds being recruited by other schools, and it's something you keep an eye on. But Ian Nacho is a kid coming off of the East Coast who's committed to Oregon still.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 O-lineman, OT, in the country, maybe number 2 O-lineman as well. But beyond Oregon, he has said, like many times now, right, to Chad Simmons, to others, that LSU is my number 2 team. I said that I would take this very seriously if he gets back to campus again. He came for the Florida game, but if he came again with his mother, and she's a big piece to his recruitment. So we talked about this earlier. A&M weekend, Arkansas weekend, is even Western Kentucky. If you play another home game or get another opportunity to host kids before signing day, early December, and he shows up with his mom, now they're on very real flip watch, right? Like, you're not just making trips like that for no reason. This isn't old school recruiting where it's like, well, they wanted free meals in a weekend. Like, cool. He's a 5-star number 2 OT who's in the rev share NIL era. Like, he doesn't need any of this. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to Ian Nacho before in person as well, in February, March, when he was in New Orleans for the Super Bowl event with Nike. And he's got it. Like, I didn't have anything figured out at his age. He's got it all figured out already.
Oh,
he's a very smart kid, and he's not out here trolling anyone or just taking visits to take them.
Yeah.
If it's not Oregon, I think it'll be LSU. So there's a real shot, but I'd like those chances go up if you get him back to campus again.
I'm with you. What
and right now everyone hates watching a 5-star offensive lineman from high school play for LSU anyways, because it means that you're throwing away a whole season. So I'll bump this thread if they get him, and then y'all get very mad that he plays in 2 seasons.
I got you.
Do you have me? Does everyone have me right now? That was a Weston Davis.
Yeah. For some people, that went straight over their heads. They
didn't. That went right into everyone's face, and then it came right back at me. Everyone's furious. But no, Ian Nacho is still in play. We'll see how it unfolds. Like, there's only a handful of guys like that. But I will say, with Debut 1996's question, we've talked about Landon Duckworth, and he was Capital City Tiger 21 asked about him. He's South Carolina's quarterback commit. I don't have anything crazy new there to pass along. And then KJ Edwards, running back who's been committed to A&M, has said he's firm. And then everyone's like, well, is he? Could he flip? We're not talking enough about Blaine Bradford right here in Baton Rouge, a 5-star safety who's been committed to Ohio State since March. But since he's so quiet with his recruitment, and the reality that, okay, well, will he visit? Yeah, he visits every game. His brother's on the team. Like, of course he visits every game. So it's sort of like he eliminated all storylines from his recruitment. He doesn't talk about it, and he makes visits to only LSU and Ohio State, and he's at every LSU game that he can be at because his brother's on the team. I think that LSU playing really well at DB and on defense, obviously, but that DB spot playing really well. Excuse me. And the reality that the 2 safeties pretty much go wire to wire, and they're both older, right? You can pitch this next guy up. It's Spears. We know that, right? Like, we've seen him play a ton. Who else? And we see them play. A year ago, they were playing nothing but freshmen at that spot. Spears was one of them. So I think the pitch for Bradford is about as strong as it ever has been right now to stay home in college.
I felt like one of the biggest things with Bradford, and I've been to 3 or 4 Catholic games over the past year, and then spend some time on campus with Blaine and his family. Like, one of the biggest things for me was like they needed to see, kind of what this group looked like. And I'm not saying that was the final domino and in a flip is impending. I think Ohio State's done a really good job here, both the NIL facet and what they're doing here.
And
But
they won a championship last year and they're number one right now. So it's not like
yeah,
they've fallen off at any point where you can point to it and say like, all right, see.
yeah. And look, they've got the prototype up there, right? In Caleb Downs, who is, is that. But I do think, to your point, that was like the one thing LSU didn't have. They didn't have the proof on the field of like, okay, this is what it's going to look like when we put you in. And I'm not saying he's AJ Halsey or he's DeMarcus Cooley, but like you can look at that and say, okay, LSU has done a really good job here of maintaining contact. Obviously, the connection with his brother Jacob is important. Regardless of what we'll try to tell you, that bond between those two guys is very strong. Is it enough to pull him and keep him home? Shay, the best way I would put this is like I'm not putting in a prediction for a flip. I'm not hinting that a flip's going to happen. I just think this is something that you can't just write off and say, hey, this is Ohio State's battle. It's over. It's done with. Even though that is a lot of the narrative coming out because things have been so quiet, especially from Blaine.
If you were to give me, could have made this whole segment much shorter by just doubling down on this. Iheanacho at OT, KJ Edwards at running back, Landon Duckworth at quarterback, and then Blaine Bradford at safety, and say, which one do you think is most likely to flip? I'm picking Bradford, the Baton Rouge kid who they've prioritized from the start. He got an LSU offer when he was in 9th grade or whatever it was. Like, they've been on him forever. So, and I guess too, throw Darius Gray in there because he's committed to South Carolina, and they fired their line coach the day after they played LSU. Like, what does that mean? But I would still pick Bradford.
Yeah.
For the same reason that Gray went to South Carolina, because he was like, they've recruited me since I was in 9th grade. Like, what, this is sort of the familiarity trumps everything else if it's all the same. So,
yeah.
But I do think that you're right. Like, now you've given Bradford that piece of, okay, if we did everything else, but we haven't shown you on the field, now he's seen it on the field because the defense has been just as good as any in America.
Oh, yeah.
Notably the DBs. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, and I guess the last piece on that, I talked about Mel Kiper's, top positional rankings.
Right.
AJ Halsey was 10th. So there's the guy, right? Like, I mean, you've got a top 10 draft eligible safety, that's on that list right there. And I know there's a gap between him and Caleb Downs right now, but he's on that list. LSU wasn't anywhere near having a guy on that list.
LSU's had Jamal Adams and Delpit and all these guys that Bradford can point to in recent years and say, hey, LSU's done it before. Like, they've never been closer to DBU again in the Kelly era than they are right now.
Yeah. Let's get a couple more, and then I know you're going to get to work on these before we get out of here because we did make the joke.
I'll just answer the rest on the board and post them, so they'll be good.
I know we made the joke. We're recording this up against my daughter being just standing.
She's like, I told you she was waiting on the street outside of school. Just maybe my dad will come one day.
All right, let's go one more. Pick one more out of here that you'd like to talk about.
Went from a few more to one more when the reality of my daughter is outside on the streets. All right, you pick the one more, and I'll do the rest on the board.
Ooh, okay. Let's go here because I do think this is a fun one. We've already kind of talked about this.
This is going to be like a yes or no answer.
It might actually be, yeah. Saving Ryan's Privates, what a name. Are we able to hold on to our class, specifically Finney and Geralds? We already talked about Geralds. And then the second part is, do we take a big name quarterback in the portal? I'll just speak real quick on Geralds. We've talked about that. I think they're doing a good job. Finney, you take it. Like, this kid is on campus all the time. Like, even in non-official capacities, like, this kid's on. I think that might be one of the most, God, I'm going to get clipped for this, but like one of the most sure bets to end up at LSU. He loves LSU. If like Raymond and them love him, it would shock me to see him go anywhere else.
Yeah, this is a cornerback, top 10 corner, and he's been the only out-of-state corner that Corey really was all over this cycle. Yes, it's California. He's got some ties to Louisiana. He's played 7-on-7 with all those guys. They got his commitment. And Michigan pushing for him a flip and others isn't new. Like, all of that was happening while he was, being recruited, when he committed, ever since then. But I think that the combo, like during the bye week, the first bye week, Corey Raymond was out in LA, like visiting with him. And he pops up, like you said, like all the time. Like, the LA kids all came in from South Carolina this past weekend. Even women's basketball, they had Jersey in who
Yeah.
Coming from the West Coast, like all of these different levels of recruits. And it's like, there's Haven Finney. It's like no one that lives on the other side of the country more casually makes visits and pops up on LSU
South
sideline than
Louisiana,
Haven
yeah.
Finney. So in a year where they took some in-state kids at DB and sort of put the out-of-state focus on Finney, I feel good about them holding on to that one. And look, then we could just go into all the other stuff like we did with Bradford of like, they're playing really well now at DB.
Oh my
and
gosh, yeah.
they need a replacement for Mansour Delane. You'll have Pickett and PJ Woodland, but PJ Woodland will be in year 3. Pickett will be in year 2. So they've got to restock. And obviously, as I noted, he's been the one out-of-state guy that Raymond's been on from the start. Hasn't let up on him. He's committed. I think you're going to be good there, which would be nice to hold on to, obviously.
All right, that last part of the question, the big one.
What did he say about the portal?
Are they going to take a big swing at a quarterback in the portal? What do you think? Initial
How
thoughts?
do you not?
Yeah. I mean,
And they didn't need a starter the past 2 cycles, and they took an SEC quarterback with experience in both of them, with AJ Swan out of Andy's. It's starting at App State now, and then obviously everyone's favorite quarterback in town, the backup Van Buren, coming from Mississippi State, playing as a true freshman a year ago. But like, if you did that in years that you knew that you had a starter, what are you doing now when you don't know who your starter will be? I would think, right, Bryce?
Yeah.
Like,
I think
swinging
they're
even harder at it.
Bruni and I've talked about this when we've been in the press box or whatever watching games. Like, if there's a guy that pops off somewhere, like, okay, is he a portal candidate? Like, at a non-big brand school. I mean, I know Cal's quarterback is going to be probably a really I can't even pronounce the kid's last name.
He was a 5-star though coming out a year ago.
Yeah.
So you'd think Cal's doing all they can to keep him.
They're going to do everything. I know Bruni loves some CJ Bailey over at NC State, 6'6" quarterback. I mean, I think you have to. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It would be a 180 from how they've approached everything to begin with. Like you mentioned, when you had a bona fide starter, but you still went out and got a guy with some level of success at a high level.
Yeah, I'd be floored if they're not swinging for the fences with a quarterback in the portal.
All right, Shay is going to dive into those mailbag questions on the board. We appreciate everyone tuning in to that recruiting podcast. I'm going to go make sure my daughter's still hanging out on the sidewalk.
Dad of the year over here.
Yeah, dad of the year. Shay Dixon, my name is Bryce Coon. We appreciate it. Make sure to check out our friends once again over there at Brunt Workware. Fantastic stuff, and we appreciate them supporting us, Bengal Tiger, to get that discount code there today. We'll catch you next time here on the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast.